Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Sheila Mitchell from the Association of Boarding Schools, better known as TABS, and welcome to our final Head of School webinar for the calendar year. We will have more webinars beginning in January, but we're so pleased that you've joined us this evening to learn about Wayland Academy, Foxcroft School, St. Andrew's College, Iolani School, Trinity Pawling School, and Cheshire Academy. Our host tonight is Jason Warnick, who's head of school of Wayland Academy, which is just 30 minutes east of Madison, Wisconsin. Wayland is a co-ed high school which offers an AP curriculum. Less than an hour west of Washington, D.C. is where you'll find Foxcroft School, an all-girls school nestled in Virginia horse country with a notable equestrian program. Serving girls in grades 9 through 12, Cathy McGehee is the head of school. From the sunny island of Honolulu, Hawaii is Tim Cottrell, the head of school of Iolani School. Iolani has over 2,000 students from kindergarten to grade 12 with boarding for grades 9 through 12. A junior boarding school of 300 boys, Trinity Pawling, is represented tonight by head of school Bill Taylor. Boys in grades 7 through 12 board at Trinity Pawling, located just 60 miles north of New York City. And Julie Anderson leads the way at Cheshire Academy, a co-ed boarding school with a notable art program located in Cheshire, Connecticut. Cheshire also offers an IB curriculum for students in grades 11 and 12. And finally, Kevin McCarthy rounds out our panel, hailing from St. Andrew's College in Ontario, Canada. St. Andrew's College serves a brotherhood of boys in grades 5 through 12. This evening, we have a program for you where our panel will introduce themselves and their schools, and then we will get right into the questions that you've submitted in advance, as well as questions you are welcome to submit in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We will spend about an hour together this evening, and if you have any questions, please do feel free to add them to the Q&A box, or feel free to email me at mitchell@tabs.org tomorrow. I'll be happy to respond to any questions that you submit. So at this moment, I'm going to turn things over to Jason to begin our webinar. Jason, over to you.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you, Sheila, and thank you so much to TABS for inviting us all to this webinar. And I'm really honored to be here as the host. I don't know if I'm qualified for that position, but I will certainly do my best. I'm the head of school at Wayland Academy, as Sheila mentioned, but really I'm a huge proponent and fan of independent boarding schools in general. And what led me to work at independent boarding schools and work with students at boarding schools was my own experience. My life was changed as a teenager who was fortunate enough to attend a boarding school, and that's where I realized what education could look like, what it could be, what it meant to be in a community where teaching and educating was a lifestyle, not just a job. And I really think boarding schools have been centers for innovation in education for a long time. And I think those of you that are here to learn more will feel that as you hear from the various heads here. Wayland is a small independent co-ed boarding school in central Wisconsin. As Sheila mentioned, we're about 30 minutes east of Madison, Wisconsin. We're in the small town of Beaver Dam. So we have a rural setting around us, but a small town our students can take advantage of. We're in a safe place, both on campus and off. We've got about 150 students. We're small by design. Every student here is known, supported, and challenged. And as we like to say, every student belongs here. We are filled with compassionate, engaged students and learners who are excited to be with one another and excited to learn with various ranges in terms of their engagement when they first arrive. So some of our staple programs, again, we have 165 years of delivering college preparatory academics to teenagers. So we have an AP curriculum, a rigorous academic curriculum in general, but we have a STEAM program for applied sciences that's integrated throughout our curriculum with some really neat electives students can take part in. We have a robust athletics program. All of our students participate in competitive athletics and club sports, a rich arts program, fine arts and music and dance and theater, and a capstone project that culminates in the senior year but begins in 9th grade. And lastly, I think we've got a wonderful entry point to high school in an integrated 9th grade curriculum where all of our 9th graders are in a course that involves their humanities teachers, so their English and their history teachers. And it's fully integrated, and I think a great sort of on-ramp to boarding school. So that's Wayland Academy. And now you'll get to meet the rest of us here on the panel. And we'll start with Cathy McGehee from Foxcroft.
Thank you, Jason, and welcome to all of you. When our school's founder, Ms. Charlotte Haxel Nolan, founded Foxcroft over 100 years ago, she wanted to create a school where girls would love to come and never want to leave, and that remains true today. In a time when society did not expect very much of women, Ms. Charlotte held high expectations and believed there was nothing that girls could not accomplish in preparing for college and to lead lives of purpose. Today, we prepare girls to lead and learn in college and beyond. Our mission is to help each girl explore her unique voice and to develop the skills, the confidence, and the courage to share it with the world. Now, voice is quite literal because our girls are given opportunities to speak, whether it's in the classroom or in morning meeting where they make announcements or speeches, but also it's metaphorical. It's her passion, it's her academic interest, it's her cause. And through our unique learning experiences in and out of the classroom on our 500-acre campus located, as you learned, in just west of Washington, D.C. in Virginia's horse country, there's lots of opportunity to have that experience on our campus and also with resources that are near to us. And also through our curriculum, which is known for its depth and breadth of offerings, including an AP program. For those students who have a particular passion and can accomplish the graduation requirements, they can elect our academic concentration program, which is a diploma designation in one of 4 areas: global studies, the arts, animal science, taking advantage of the horses we have on campus and the many dogs that live in our faculty dorms, and our STEM program. This concentration program includes required coursework, internships on and off campus, as well as a capstone project in the arts that would be a portfolio or performance. Foxcroft also is nationally recognized for its STEM program. We believe that all girls, whether they pursue majors in the humanities or in the arts or theater, need a strong STEM education to make them informed citizens, and also to open pathways to careers that still where women are still underrepresented. In addition to our opportunity for lots of computer science for girls and our Cyber Patriot program and our innovation lab, girls all take physics, they all take 4 years of math and science, and they have opportunities in and out of the classroom to explore STEM fields. For those students who are training or competing at a high level, our exceptional proficiency program allows students the latitude to be off campus. It was the mainstay of our equestrian program that allowed our students to train and compete in the Winter Equestrian Festival, but now it includes synchronized ice skaters, softball players, swimmers, opera singers, and actresses. So it is an opportunity for those students who would like a school experience but want to train and compete or perform. And all of this happens, I think, as Jason said, because of our incredible faculty. 90% of our faculty live on campus, and they're committed to not only being experts in their subject area, but being experts on teenage girls and what they need to thrive in school and beyond. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Great. And forgot to mention that we have some questions that have already come in, and you're free to put questions in the Q&A chat as well, and we'll get to those after the introductions. Next up for an introduction is Tim Cottrell from Iolani School. Oh, Tim, I think there we go.
There we go. Thank you, Jason. And aloha, everyone. I'm Tim Cottrell, head of school at Iolani School. I've been in this position for 9 years. Iolani is around 160 years old, and we're one of the largest college prep schools in the United States. We're located about a mile off Waikiki Beach. For most of our history, we were a boarding and day school. In the 1880s, our most famous alumnus, Sun Yat-sen, or Sun Jong-shan, graduated from our boarding program. We suspended boarding in the 1950s, but reestablished it 3 years ago in order to have a global community in the center of our campus. And we built a brand new dorm right in the middle of our campus for about 120 students. As a school, I would say that our greatest asset is our school culture, where we are very team oriented, and Iolani students learn really the power of working together to achieve things. We often say at Iolani that we achieve together as one. And although we're big, this culture and our commitment to individual students really, I think, gives us a small school feel. Another expression that you hear at Iolani often is that at Iolani, you are known. And this is a commitment we have to every single student. All of this results in a tremendous amount of student achievement on the state, national, and international stages across categories from academics to STEM education, the arts, student body diversity. We're ranked as the #1 school in the state of Hawaii, and Iolani is the only school in the state ranked in the top 50 nationally. But our culture, that's really what holds us together. We offer many, many opportunities to our students. That's because of the size of the school we are, much like a small college. And our commitment to team-based culture and a small school feel and individual education is what makes us a really special place.
Thank you, Tim. And next, Bill Taylor from Trinity Pawling.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Sheila and Tabs for organizing this. And good evening to all of you joining this evening. I'm so delighted that you're spending time to learn more about boarding schools. Trinity Pawling is an all-boys boarding school located about 60 miles north of Manhattan, 2 miles west of Connecticut in the beautiful Hudson River Valley. And we have boys here, grades 7 through postgraduates, and we have boarding that begins in 8th grade all the way through postgraduate. Our mission is to prepare young men for leadership and achievement in an ever-changing world. And we do that by being experts on how boys learn best. And so we have a very active learning environment. We have AP programs and so forth. But we also have a heavy emphasis on project-based learning, experiential learning, creating a very active, agile learning environment, which is really, it resonates with boys. It's a holistic learning environment, mind, body, and spirit. We're an Episcopal school, so the chapel is the place where the community comes together, and we focus on issues of character and respect and how to live together in a harmonious community. We have a pretty vibrant athletic program. Everybody can compete on a level that works for him. And we compete in the Founders League, which is one of the more competitive athletic leagues in New England or the country. And we're happy to be represented here this evening.
Wonderful. Thanks, Bill. And next is Julie Anderson from Cheshire Academy.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. So Cheshire Academy is the 10th oldest boarding school in the United States. We are co-ed, boarding and day. We have grades 9 through PG. Postgraduate program is available to students who have finished their high school experience and are looking for a little something more to help them prepare for their next step in college. We're about 350 students, and we're very proud to have about 34% of our students international students coming from, on average, about 30 different countries. Cheshire, Connecticut is a small little town, about 1.5 hours from New York, about 2 hours from Boston. It was recently rated the 28th safest town in the US, according to Money Magazine. We have 104 acres right in the middle of town. It's a short walk to go to coffee shops, to get pizza, go to a restaurant or the grocery store. So the kids love that. I've been at the school for 18 years. My husband teaches at the school. I have a daughter who is an alumna, who is in college now, and I have a 10th grader who is a student here. So Cheshire Academy is my home and my family, and that is kind of the way we make it for every student who's here. It's home, it's family. We know that our students, particularly boarding students, it's a challenge to be away from home. So we really wrap our arms around our kids and make sure that they feel connected, that they feel safe, that they feel challenged and supported in all that they do. Though our history began in 1794, we're not an elitist school. We have a relaxed dress code. We don't have Saturday classes, and we don't have chapel. Those are all wonderful things that many schools do have. That's something that we haven't had, and it works for us. And so just to let you know that piece about us as well. We do not have a cutthroat academic environment. We have a range of students. So we have students who are incredibly self-motivated academically, and students that have struggled and haven't had the support needed to be successful. And we work with all of those students because our kids here have an individual path to success. No two students have the same academic schedule or the same activities that they're involved in. It's all about finding what's right for the individual student. We have the International Baccalaureate program, which is our most rigorous academic program. It's on the level of AP if you're not familiar with it, but a little bit different philosophy. Students who graduate with the IB diploma often earn lots of time off from college and by earning some extra college credits. And I can say my daughter has a full year of credit from graduating with the IB diploma. So that's been great for her. We work hard to find the best fit for our students, the best fit college. And you can see by looking at our college list, from Ivy League to Service Academy to the schools that might be listed as much lesser competitive schools. It's all about what's right for the individual student. And we work hard to get to know our kids and to help them find the best fit and to celebrate that yes. We also have a very vibrant athletic program and arts program that we're pretty well known for. Athletics, we stand out in football, girls and boys lacrosse, and girls and boys basketball as well. And we're excited that we've had a full athletic season for the most part. All of our teams have played in competitive play and been really safe and healthy during this time. So that's been a lot of fun for me to see and for our kids to experience. And I would just say every school is different. I wish you the best of luck in your search, and I hope that you learn a lot about schools like ours. Boarding schools are just a wonderful place for kids to grow up. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And last but not least, Kevin McHenry from St. Andrews College.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and or good afternoon, wherever you may be. Calling in from north of the border. I understand you have an election down there in the US sometime soon, so not here. And I wanted to just elaborate a little bit about St. Andrews College, located about 30 minutes north of Toronto. St. Andrews, similar to Bill's school, is an all-boys school, grade 5 to 12. We have boarding students from grade 6 to 12. We are a school of 650 students in total, 260 boarders. So we happen to be Canada's largest all-boys boarding school. There are 29 boarding schools in Canada, to just give you an idea. Many more in the US, so it's obviously a different entity. We were founded in 1899, so lots rich history, 125 acres in a town called Aurora on a street called Yonge, which is the longest street in in Canada. So great location. We have boys from 31 countries around the world. Very vibrant community, very similar to the programs you've heard already. Fully composite arts, athletics, STEM, STEAM, very, very engaged students at all times. We are, our mission of this at the school is dedicated to the complete man, the well-rounded citizen. So playing on a sports team is equally as important as participating in the school play, and that's really what we're all about. We're an AP school, an AP capstone school. Boys all over, travel all over the world. About a quarter to 30% of our students actually attend US universities, which is interesting and neat. Alumni worldwide, and we have just actually, after being a boys' school for 121 years, we have just acquired a beautiful 40,000 square foot mansion about a kilometer away that will become a sister school for St. Andrews. So that's in the development, and I see Cathy nodding her head down there. So we're now part of the National Girls School Coalition, as we are with the International Boys School Coalition. So it's an exciting time up here north of the border. So that's a little bit about St. Andrews College. Thank you for having me, and best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. So we have some questions that have come in already, and obviously we've got a great diverse group of schools here, and we'll try to get everybody involved. But please, for all the other heads of school, feel free to jump in if you feel like you want to add something. And also, there's some questions about do we have students in session and on campus? And we all at our school's websites have information about our reopening plans and how we're managing sort of the challenges around COVID. And we encourage everyone to go and get into the details on our websites. But if folks, as we get through questions, want to briefly touch on, whether or not we have students on campus, and do we have spaces available? There's some questions around that for the second semester. We can touch on that, I think, throughout our question and answer. But one core question is, how do we help students adjust to being away from home? Sending a student to boarding school is a big change. How do we help our students adjust to that? And maybe Cathy, you could kick us off with that question.
Well, thank you. I always like to say to my parents, and I don't think I'm unique in this, that your child is your most precious cargo, and you've entrusted him or her to us for the care. And I would say that it's important to normalize homesickness and to say it's going to happen, right? They're going to have lots of fun, but there's going to be a time where they might feel a little bit homesick. And so I know all of our schools have different measures in place, but they all have to do with the caring adults that are around. At my school, we have, every student has an academic advisor, but also has a dorm team with dedicated dorm parents that get to know the students more in their home atmosphere. Our nurses, our school counselor, they're all there to give a little TLC. And in addition, our student leaders are a really important part of that, of saying to a new student, oh, I felt that way too. And sometimes I still feel that way, but here's what we can do. Let's go get an ice cream cone, or let's go take a walk around the green, and maybe we can call your parents together, or just there's lots of support. But again, understanding that's to be expected, and that students will get coping strategies and feel so accomplished when they know how to overcome these challenges that they face, and know they can do it, and they can do it with the support of a caring community, and because of their own strength.
Thank you. Anyone want to add to Cathy's response?
I'd just like to underscore what Cathy said, that it's a normal experience, sort of feeling that that sense of homesickness or adjustment, and it's just part of the growing process. And we try very hard to make sure we're leaning into the relationships here, but also keeping the students, keeping the boys active and having lots of programs, lots of things going on the weekends, lots of activities. But then we overlay that with a very strong network of communication amongst teachers, advisors, dorm parents. And so when we recognize that a boy is having difficulty adjusting to, to this, beginning this new experience, then we've got lots of strategies that we can bring to bear on that without the boy really knowing that we've been talking and discussing and talking about strategies. So it's about communication and relationships and being engaged.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, I echo the keep them busy because too, especially at the beginning, right? I think we all probably have very robust orientation programs that help students get to know one another and try a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also feel like at boarding schools, community is cool, and it was alluded to, but yes, there are at all of our schools, there's advisor programs and mentor programs. So as a parent, you have this first point of contact with an adult who's got a small group of students that they take extra care and interest in. But there's also that student portion, and nothing beats another student reaching out. And that's what you find at our boarding schools is the students take ownership for that culture. And I just recently was in the dining hall here and overheard a couple of kids talking, and one of them said, do you have John at lunch? And they were two seniors, and I asked what they were talking about, and they were talking about who's going to make sure to sit with an underclassman who was struggling a little bit. And that was something completely driven by the students. I had no idea what they were talking about, but they took that on themselves. And I think that conversation could happen at any one of our schools. So community is cool at boarding school. We have some questions pertaining specifically to international students. A parent interested in what support would we provide international students in general, and what support do we provide international students who may not be able to make it to campus in the near term? And we could start maybe with Tim.
Thanks, Jason. That's a great question. We're kind of uniquely positioned further away from anywhere, but kind of in a nexus between everybody around the Pacific Rim. So we have in our day population, I think a lot of international heritage that comes to the school culturally, right? For international students, there's the practical side of it. We, in terms of supporting them with the visa process, with different kinds of financial aid or scholarship, we intentionally try to create a pretty diverse or, international community, right? So we're looking for students with lots of different cultural perspectives. One of the things that I like about where my school is, Hawaii, is that it has a tradition of welcoming people from other places. And I'm sure this is the same at all of our schools, right? In Hawaii, it's a spirit of aloha here. So it's welcoming people from different places with complete acceptance and no judgment. So Hawaii's kind of a cultural polyglot. We speak the languages of many cultures. And I think you find that at all boarding schools, right? This is a really unique thing when kids go to a place and they're immersed in that. That's where they really do become global citizens, right? So, I think there's multiple dimensions. Like I said, there's the practical side of, getting here and supporting people financially. There's the other side of really becoming a citizen of the world as part of our goals, as one of our goals. In the current context, I think all boarding schools have experienced difficulty, right, with COVID and things like that. So we're running programs simultaneously. We have a fully integrated online program for our boarding students, which allows them to, receive instruction in academics, but also participate in the full house system that we have on campus. And I'm sure everybody does that. So, and we're all looking forward to a time in the not too distant future when we won't be needing to do that. So I think currently for us, about 2/3 of our students, our boarding students, have been here for 8 weeks, right? And another third haven't been able to travel for all of the reasons we understand.
Great. Thanks. And maybe Julie, did you want to chime in on that?
Sure. As Tim was saying, I think all of our schools have someone who really is the point person for the international students, somebody who starts that process with the student's visa and really follows the student throughout their experience, being able to address specific concerns, especially during last spring and with this summer and this fall, with many different questions coming up from our international students and their families. So we also have we have a dedicated international student coordinator, and that is what she does. She handles that visa process, but just as important, she works with all of the families from the moment that they enroll. Our students are matched with a peer mentor who is typically a student who is an alumnus of the school. And it's a young alumnus who works with the student they've been assigned or matched with and kind of talks to them about what's school like in the US, what could they expect in the town of Cheshire, what's the boarding program, questions that they might not even know that they have yet. So that's really important. But I think also just as important is connecting with the families. And I know that we all work very hard in boarding schools to make sure that our parents and students' families are really connected, no matter how far away you are. I know that we all really, really work hard at communication, so that whether we're sending you a clip from a video from the play or live streaming an event, so that families can really have a sense of being there, translating a lot of our materials and offering appointments at different times. And certainly with Zoom, that's really helpful now. So it's really, it's such a special part of a school to have international students and to see domestic and international students really not have a sense of who lives where, but that we're all family, we're all in the same place. So there's tons of support in boarding schools in general.
Thanks. And Kevin, I wonder if you might chime in as our expert from north of the border, maybe on St. Andrews.
Expert from north of the border, sure. I'll do my best. So our school has, as I mentioned, 260 boarders, and our numbers are highly regulated by our board. So half of our boarding population is international, as I mentioned, from 31 countries, and the other half, so 130 boys, are domestic, and that doesn't change. So for this year, we are shy at 25 boys as in person because of visa issues. So we have 25 new international students who are fully working online in more than just academics, as well as Tim mentioned. We have advisory through the program, clubs, and as many co-curriculars as possible on Zoom. So very, very engaged, as engaged as possible. And as mentioned, that's just strictly a visa issue. The other students are all here, and we're working on hopefully having those boys join us soon. But so that's the state of our nation, so to speak. And as I mentioned, all the classrooms are fully live streamed to all the boys, the 25 that are not here. So that's been well received, and it's been working well.
Thanks. Did anyone else want to chime in on this one? Cathy, maybe?
I don't know that I have much specific to add, except that one of the things that I don't know that the kids think about it while they're here, but I know parents will appreciate it, is that the international program enriches our schools while students are here, but it also provides a lifetime of friendship and global connections, and that our children are going to live and work in a global economy, and that these connections are so important to their success in the future. And when you live and learn with someone from halfway across the world, someone from Colorado, and in my case, someone from Sterling, Virginia, you're going to have really rich skills that you build with cultural competencies and growing empathy, and these things are going to prepare you for life in a way that you know, it happens somewhat naturally, even though we have all these very specific programs in place. And it's just wonderful to see the friendships that do grow and how that relates in the future to, oh, hey, you're in this business. I've got somebody in, you know, Berlin that I can connect you with, or whatever. So I think it's really an important short-term and long-term benefit from our schools.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got some questions around health and safety, and one good old-fashioned item that we've probably all gotten questions about. How do we work with a boarding student who might be feeling a little homesick? And maybe, Bill, you could begin there.
Sure. Thank you, Jason. I think it's important to make sure that that boy knows that that's a normal feeling, and I think every one of our schools, every student has been that new student, and so I have found certainly that the students really reach out and help the new boys who come in. We have various different programs, certainly during the orientation period. But then beyond that, and making sure we're communicating and keeping students active and engaged. And then when we notice somebody maybe off alone, then to make sure that we're working to keep him connected and engaged with others. And the students really do a lot of that on their own, because they know what it was like to be the new student.
Thanks. Any other thoughts on supporting students who might miss home, that change of living away from home?
I would just add, I think too, that sometimes the parents need some support, so they're welcome to call someone, and they're missing that empty nest feeling maybe, but you know, we're here to help with that.
Yeah, and one more add on to that is not only parents at home, but parents on campus, that is the house parents. About as dedicated as you know, as an educator can be, I believe, just living and very experienced, and have dealt and had kids flourish through some challenging times to start their tenure as a boarding school student. And so it's very nice to have as many faculty live on campus as our schools can accommodate. And that's a very important ingredient to our program, and specifically to the boarding houses. You know, house parents are special people, and you know, they're in it for the right reasons, and they're just professionals.
I would also add that dogs help a great deal. We have about 35 dogs on campus, and we have a dog walking club, and so especially when those boys who are new, they're great dog walkers, and that makes them feel right at home.
Any other thoughts on dorm life or residence life and how that contributes, or any part of our schools that helps students to be comfortable and at home?
I would say, Jason, that one of the things that's, especially for young incoming students, 9th grade or something like that, the amount of activities they're going to be exposed to are so much more than maybe what they would normally have at home. You know, that I've got an 11th grader who lives at home. And when I look at our boarding students, you know, his kind of connectedness to a large peer group is much smaller, right? Because he's not out hiking on the weekends, and he's not, you know, having a Halloween celebration with a bunch of other students and decorating their floor and doing all those kinds of things. So I think one of the parts of getting over that hump of homesickness is that level of connectedness that students in a boarding program begin to feel as they become more independent and, you know, spend a lot more time with their friends in a really supportive structure.
Thanks. And I guess we've got folks asking us to talk about that transition again from maybe a public or day school to private, and what can they expect in terms of an outcome or the outcomes coming to boarding school, private school, as opposed to the public school. And we could start that with Julie.
Thanks. So parents come to boarding schools, they bring their children because they're looking for something more, I would say, or something different than the option that they might have, that is their local school. And I think most of our schools that have boarding and day, we certainly do pull all the kids in together and really make it so that the boarding students have the great experience on campus that we want them to have, but also that they are becoming connected to the local area, to the state, by their friends who might be day students. So they get to experience both worlds. But I think what, for kids today, they're really excited about trying a new adventure, and the boarding school offers that. And I think the transition, it's not as much as one would think. And it really depends on the type of school that you choose. So a transition might be going from a co-ed to a single gender school. And that might be a great transition for a student. Or it might be coming from a school with large class sizes to smaller class sizes. And that might be great for a student. And it's really about the fit. If you can visit a school, see how it feels for you. But as my colleagues mentioned, every student will have an advisor. That person is really your connection and your child's connection to the school. They will help them with anything they need. You can ask questions about dress code or how to sign up for a sport or weekend activity. You can call them if you're worried that your child says they're not eating in the dining hall. So you have a connection and your student has a connection. And that's very different from the public school environment. And I also think one of the things that all of us are really proud of is the preparation that we give our students to move on to the next step, to move on to college. Our kids get to college and they simply have a much easier experience. They have lived with another human being that they are not related to. They have learned how to work out differences and challenges with a roommate, and then they've become good friends with that roommate. They've learned how to take care of themselves, whether it's doing their laundry or making sure they're getting up in time for class and, getting themselves to bed, managing their time. There's tons of support, especially for our newer students or our younger students in those house parents that Kevin mentioned. But there's so many opportunities here for kids. And college counseling, I would say, although each of our schools may do it a little bit differently, there is one-on-one support. Our college counselors are focused solely on college counseling. They might coach or they might be a house parent, but they're not doing other activities that you might find in a larger public school where the counselor is also doing many other things within the school. So they're really focusing just on that college process. Most of us are starting that process, when a student arrives. So even a ninth grader, and it might be just a couple of meetings talking about, get involved, right? Because we know at the end of the senior year, the students want to talk about all their great experiences and share that with the college. So there is that really one-on-one attention. Everybody knows your child. And most of my colleagues here today have said everybody knows everyone's name. We know every face. Everybody belongs. And I think that is a really, really big difference coming from the public school, that your child will just thrive. Nobody slips through the cracks at all.
Thank you. And Cathy, did you want to add on to that?
Well, I loved what Julie said about how our program doesn't, our programs will differ in some of the specifics, but I think the point is when we get to know the students as they come to us, we are better prepared to help them through the college process, help them find the fit, help them find what will be a good option for them in colleges. I also think that our schools are known by colleges, and we can offer and have lots of visits. I mean, we're actually doing virtual visits, but it's turned out on our campus to open up even more opportunities for colleges to Zoom in with our students, tell a bit about their school, have that networking that happens with colleges in a way. And all of us do it a little bit differently, but our kids are exposed to a lot of opportunities through our devoted college counselors, really knowing the kids and then knowing the colleges well. That's another distinction from the public schools. And those poor counselors have to serve a larger number of students for a wider variety. They're dedicated, but they can't focus just on the college program.
Yeah, and there is this question that came up asking for more information on the college process. I don't know if anyone wants to add any unique features or other pieces of the college process at our schools that really differ.
I would just add that, we have 2 full-time college counselors and they live on campus. And so November 1st was just a big deadline for a lot of applications. So, last week there were, college essay writing parties and people going over and getting help with essays and working on applications. And so that, the fact that everybody's here, it makes the resources so accessible and attainable, and certainly outside of what might be the confines of a school day. We'll get together with students over dinner and talk about the college process and so forth. And as has been said, our faculty really know the students. Any boarding school faculty member will know their students because they're seeing those students in a wide variety of contexts, not just in the classroom. They're going to see that student in the arts. They're going to see the student in the dining hall. They're going to see the student engaged in community service. And they just see a very comprehensive example of what makes that each student distinctive and the strengths. And then they can write, they can help, they can advocate on their behalf.
I would add one more thing, Jason, that different than public schools, we have, we all have very dedicated alumni communities. So this is a resource that our students use, so if you're a student who's interested in Georgetown, we have them speak to 5 alums who went to Georgetown, right? And to understand what the school is like and things like that. So it's, the kinds of schools we are entirely dedicated on placing students at the right school for them.
And next question, maybe highlighting some of the differences between small and large boarding schools. And there are, I think we all talk about finding the school that's the right fit. So that's probably to a T. Each head of school here would say that we're looking for students who fit, and then each family should be looking for a school that's the right fit. Maybe we can talk about, we have both large and small. What are the strengths of a larger school community? And then some of us at smaller schools might speak to the strengths of the smaller school community. And maybe Cathy, you could start that conversation.
Well, thank you. I think we're on the smaller end in this group at typically between 170, 175 students. And I think one of the things that makes our small community different is that we're about 75% boarding, 25% day, but our day students have rooms and roommates, and they must live on campus. I mean, we say must, it's really fun. It's that first 5 week. It's like, boot camp, whatever you want to call it, although that's not the right analogy because we're not a military school. So wait a minute, forget that. But it's just the idea that everyone builds that strong sense of community, also builds good habits and routines for success in school and great weekend activities. So, on the smaller end, we're really enriched by that sense of community and people know one another. We're just large enough so that, their classes are large. They're meeting new people. We accept students all the way through. You could be a new junior. We even sometimes have new seniors, and that's great. But you're going to find your classroom, but then also your dorm identity. We have freshman dorm and a senior dorm, but then they're mixed in the other grade levels. So it's a wonderful opportunity. And, you know, we can fit one another. We can get we can get everybody in one big area. Even during COVID, we can get everybody together and enjoy that time. So some advantages there.
Thank you. And maybe Kevin on the larger side, I believe.
Yeah, we're a little larger, 650 students in total, large campus. So still one you know, factor that would be common in all our schools is class size. You know, we would be 15 would be on the larger side for us, which is really important. I myself I'm Canadian, have always lived in Quebec and Ontario, but have lots of public school experience, and to the point that was made beforehand, you know, there's there's higher volume in public schools and some wonderful teachers and schools, but it's just harder to do what we're trying to do together as a group of 6 schools on this call. So, you know, it's all about fit. It's all, you know, if I would imagine many participants on this call are from the US, and, you know, you'd think, you know, why would I send my son to Canada? Well, that really requires homework and the fit. And sometimes people like what they see and hear and feel when they come to school, and sometimes they don't. So we are a little bit larger as a boarding school, but you know, that works for us, and it works for works for all of our students. So it's all about fit.
Thanks. And maybe Julie?
Great. One thing I was thinking as Kevin was speaking, and Cathy, and Bill alluded to it a little bit earlier, with the faculty living on campus. I know certainly we're in the smaller side, about 350, but I think even with a larger school, you really do get to know everyone, but there's also a sense people choose to work at a boarding school not because it's a job, but because it's a lifestyle. And the teachers who choose this career love kids, and they are just as excited to work with kids in the classroom on a project as after school, in the theater or on the field, or, you know, getting together just to play guitar in the dining hall after brunch. It's 24/7. You know, we close a little bit, just maybe for a few breaks, for longer vacations, but we're always here. And we love kids, and we love engaging with kids in all aspects of their development, their academic, their athletic, their social and emotional growth, their artistic. So it really, there's certainly differences to big and small, but I think even a larger school can feel small because of the connections, and because our teachers, they just love kids. And, you know, for me as a head of a smaller school, I love that I really get to know the kids. I had a student from Sweden who stayed at my house for 3 days last week, who was maybe not feeling well, and we didn't think it was COVID, but we weren't sure. And you know, that's what we do. I'm not unique in that. We all take care of our kids, and we look out for them because we are like their family. So that's just my thought on that.
Thanks. Tim, did you want to?
Yeah, we're on the larger side, right? We're over 2,000 students. But we strive to do everything that everybody's talked about here in terms of that small feel, knowing kids, having small class sizes, having really low student to teacher ratios throughout the school, all of those really great things. I think probably the main thing that being larger offers is the scale or scope of opportunities that students can see, right? So we're able to field a 90 student full orchestra that travels all over the world, right? And we're able to, you know, we have, I think, around 100 student clubs, and, you know, we have programs in robotics and, you know, all of the different things, economics and history and a science Olympiad. And, you know, so there's a lot of space for students to try new things, which is super important to us. We try to push kids into trying things that they haven't tried before, take those intellectual risks, right? So a bigger school creates, I think we just have a larger palette of opportunities for students. I wouldn't say though that it's a quality difference. I would say for all of our boarding schools, kind of the quality of what students experience in those programs is probably very, very similar, right? It's just that, in the case of orchestra, we can field a full 90 student. Actually, we have 4 orchestras at Iolani, and our orchestra, our highest, they're all that big. So, yeah.
Great. And Bill, did you want to add to this discussion on size or?
I think it's all the points have been well made. I would just, maybe add a COVID specific comment to it, because we're 300 students large, so we're sort of in the middle. But we were able to leverage our size in terms of the space. We have 250 acres, but we also have, we have smaller dormitory buildings, which really turned out to be a, wonderful asset in, in preparing to reopen the campus with COVID. Now, pre and post COVID, it's wonderful to have those small buildings because it nurtures, a real family type feel. But this year in particular, it was because of the health protocols, it really worked well for our planning.
Great. I think, as we talk about fit, there's questions about how to explore boarding schools in the time of COVID. All of us are probably at different places in terms of our ability to welcome families to campus, which I'm sure most of us, that's our number one piece of advice for a family looking to decide on a school is go visit and connect with the community. But I'm sure we all have different ways that some of us may be visiting campus. Here at Wayland, we're doing most of our admissions work virtually, and I'm sure all of us have opportunities online to engage and get as deep a dive as you can as a family, trying to best understand the culture of each school, because we're all different sizes. We've got all different unique programs and approaches. And really it is about the place that works for your son or daughter, and what feels right. And so I always give, the advice to talk to as many students, as many parents, as many teachers as the admissions office will let you talk to or get you connected with, to understand and get that feel for your student, your son or daughter, what's the right community for them. There's some questions about, one parent saying they've been researching boarding schools quite a bit and visiting websites and really trying to understand some of the unique offerings and unique differences that might make that fit a reality for their son or daughter. And maybe as we get close to the top of the hour here, we can jump into some of those unique programs or pieces that we want to highlight in our schools, and maybe also take a chance there to talk about whether we're online or in person, or what our situation is, and if we have openings in the second semester. And to throw one other piece that we might want to address here is the admissions process, application process, anything you want to highlight, any changes there in the time of COVID. So unique offerings that our school, we want to highlight at our schools, what we're looking like right now in the time of COVID, and any changes or advice on the application process. And we could start that off maybe with,
there's one question that might be a nice tease into this that's on the chat from Sarah Lynn, that asked if students can repeat a year at boarding school. There's a lot of stigma repeating in the public school, and that's a great segue into the application process. But I know each school might treat this a little differently, but I do believe that we at Foxcroft, and I bet most of the schools here, look at making sure that a student is taking the right, it's not having one particular schedule or one particular class, but making sure that the students are taking the right classes for that student. And if that means repeating a year, or in our case, our grade levels are not very rigid. So you have, because, maybe an international student enters the American Lit curriculum at a different age than someone else, it's really not strictly by the grade level, and that might help you. So in the admissions process, I'm not sure that that's something you would want to talk about with the admissions counselor. We do placement tests for some of our subjects so that we can talk about whether what's the right curriculum for that particular student. We like to say there's no one right schedule. There's the right schedule for each student.
Thank you. Anyone else want to chime in particular on the admissions process then, or repeating grades or placement?
Yeah. So Jason, I think certainly at many schools, we'll see students that haven't found success at their home school, and they look at a boarding school for a new opportunity, for a second, a second opportunity to really show who they can be. And so I think it's really common, certainly at our school, we have many students who choose to repeat a grade, and there's definitely no stigma to that. Because especially in this type of environment at boarding schools, there's a lot of crossover between grades. As Cathy was saying, it's not uncommon, for a junior to sit and have lunch with a freshman. There's no written rules about, sticking within your own grade. So there's no stigma whatsoever. And many times it's life-changing, changing that grade. And I always say to students, don't tell me you should have been in 12th grade. Sometimes they'll say, well, I should be a senior. I said, no, you should be where you are right now. Whatever grade you're in is the best grade for you, and that's where you should be. So I don't think that that's an issue really in the boarding school world at all. It's not uncommon, and it's a way for kids to start fresh. I could just very quickly say, I think with the admissions process, most schools that I know are being a little bit easier with or gentler with some requirements as far as testing goes, because we know it can be difficult to provide some of the standardized testing that usually accompanies an application. I know our school, we have waived that for this year, and I know many other schools as well. We do accept mid-year students, so we are, as do many other schools, so certainly look into that. Most schools have online open houses. Maybe we can all share when those are. So you could definitely look for that. Those are really helpful. We are touring families on campus, but we just ask that families make an appointment because we want to make sure we can do it as safe as possible for everyone. But we understand that sometimes being on campus really, there's not quite a same experience that we can duplicate, but most of us have done really great videos, and I think parents are another great asset, and students, talking to current or past parents, students, give you a really good sense of what the school is like. They're all great, but you want to find the school that's a best fit for your child.
I think, I spent years working in the admissions office before, moving into different areas of administration. But one of the pieces of advice I'd always give to families at open houses is that, especially when they're looking at multiple boarding schools, is that, we all have so many things in common that are really, really wonderful. But their job as parents is to really start to try to focus in and find out what is the soul of each school, what drives the school, because that ultimately will be what attracts other families to that school, but that is also going to be what attracts faculty to that school. That soul, that energy, and that's the energy that's going to be there, in the long days of, at least in the Northeast of winter. But that's what gives it its sustenance. And each of our schools has that. And the schools, I'm sure are very good at telling families what that is, but don't hesitate to ask either if you're not finding it.
Jason, you're muted.
I'm
There you go.
muted. Sorry, that's my idea for a T-shirt for Tabs is maybe "You're muted" across the front. I think we could do very well with that. I'm sorry, I apologize. I missed the Q&A question here, and I will. It sounds like Kevin or myself, some of us may get type an answer to that question. But I thought maybe continuing with the discussion around the admissions process, application, unique offerings at our schools for those who haven't chimed in on that yet.
If I could, I'll just say a few things, Jason. I think we're the same as everybody in modifying our admissions process and visits just needing to be coordinated, right, in order to take safety into account. What for Iolani, what I think is part of what we really believe in is students trying out a lot of different things, right? So we have many levels of different opportunities. So you can try theater, you can try the math team, you can try different sports, you can do all kinds of different things. But once you land on something you really like, then we provide the opportunity to go very far with that, right? So our students are able to, again, they end up competing around the world, often representing Hawaii in national competitions, which is an interesting thing. I think it's a happy byproduct of our school culture, our team orientedness, because it's not like a driven achievement kind of thing. But we certainly believe in promoting that. And because we're so far removed from other places, travel's a big part of the experience at Iolani. I mentioned the orchestra before. I mean, they in a typical non-COVID time, they play in Rome, London, New York City. They go to the Midwest Clinic. They go all over the place. And the school funds all of those trips for our students because traveling around the world is part of, and going to other places is part of what we consider the curriculum of the school.
Well, speaking as the girls' school representative here, I do think that the opportunity for girls to learn together and to support one another defies a lot of how the media presents teenage girls right now. They are supportive, not competitive, and the opportunities that we have are all for girls. And that is something that's very unique, and the boys' schools will say the same thing. It takes on a little different flavor for the girls versus boys schools in terms of what that means. But I like to say we're not a school with girls, we're a school for girls. Our teachers are experts in how girls learn best. Our curriculum and our programs are centered on what both cognitive studies and research on the success of girls' schools is part of that. And it's just one big sisterhood that's really pretty amazing. And it goes on in life when they join our 3,000 alumni all over the world wanting to support women in their success beyond the walls of the gates of Foxcroft. So hope that's helpful.
Jason, could I add one thing? I think really important to know about boarding schools is that they're really safe environments. They're great environments for kids to try something that they would be afraid, either because they aren't sure if they would be successful or because maybe they don't think their friends would think it's cool in another environment. So, and someone mentioned earlier, you can be the quarterback on the football team and be in the choir. You can be a student who, you kind of beat to your own drum, and maybe you have blue hair and you're just interested in things that maybe, not a lot of kids in your public school are interested in. And there's a sense of safety at our schools where kids, you can just be you. And that's accepted and it's celebrated. There are lots of, fun social groups to belong to. But I think in our types of schools, everybody has a friend, and you can just be whoever you want to be. There aren't social norms that you have to adhere to in our environments. Everyone is so different. Especially with many of our schools having international students. So we have really different kids. And there's just a safe place for everybody to be. And I think that's a really important piece today when we see young people really challenged with, struggles with their emotional health and wellness. And I think our schools put a really, really strong emphasis on making sure that kids are emotionally healthy and well. We want them to be successful academically. Of course, we want them to be successful in the activities of their choice. But it's really important that we can develop kids that are really strong and confident in their character and know how to take care of themselves and know how to ask for help. So they're just great environments to grow and thrive.
No matter how many times I will mute myself. Kevin, anything you wanted to add in here in terms of enrollment admissions process, unique offerings?
No, I mean, for us, we, in all honesty, the quarterback for our football team last year, we have a bagpiping program at the school. He's a bagpiping. He was also the lead in the play. And that doesn't happen all the time, but it's what we encourage. For I think all of our schools, the bottom line is there are such a great number of opportunities and programs that your son or daughter will find their niche and hopefully be able to explore outside of their comfort zone, because that's really what it's all about.
Thanks. Yeah, I think, it's really hit home for me this fall here at school. I think it's quite a time to be a teenager. I think being a teenager in the best of times is not easy. It's challenging. You're trying to figure out who you are and what your place is in the world. I think our schools uniquely support students toward that. And in times like this, I think it's even harder being a teenager because there is uncertainty and there's a lot of challenges out there, but the strength of our communities is pretty inspiring. And I bet we've all had these moments through the course of this fall where, as an adult, you might be watching the news or you might be getting down, but you turn and you watch our students rise to the occasion, whether it's, pushing through on a sports athletic competition or a choir performance at safe distance, or, here we had this amazing homecoming that the students put together, and they did this. It was all outside on our football field because we had to be safe and distant, but the students did they did a talent show, every number of talents and acts and songs and hip hop routines and poetry. And every time a student got up and did something, the rest of the student body just cheered, regardless of what, the act was. And I think that's what that sense of community, I believe, is so important right now. And I think as adults and parents, we can look to the teenagers at our schools for leadership, for optimism, for the ability to work with one another. And it's really, for me, been a profound experience this fall. I'm sure for all of us, it's been challenging, but there's real strength in the community. And I think that's what our schools are built on. And so I think I don't know if we have more questions or if we're coming up to the end of our time here, or if anyone wants to add additional thoughts.
Jason,
Hope everyone stays healthy.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, good advice. I want to thank everyone for our families for joining us tonight. I'd like to thank our panel. Jason, thank you for hosting. I know it's not always easy, but we hopefully have provided a breadth and depth of knowledge for our families tonight about how different our schools are, what kinds of schools we have, urban, rural, and suburban, and just really something for everyone. And as Julie and Cathy so eloquently said, kids who are looking for boarding schools are ready for more. And in fact, we have a website called readyformore.com where you can learn so much more about all of these amazing schools here tonight, as well as visit their own websites, of course. But that will provide a lot of good information around the discovery process and the application process of boarding school as a whole. So thank you for joining us. We hope that we've answered a lot of your questions. Again, my email is mitchell@tabs.org if you have any further questions. And thank you all. Stay healthy. Have a great evening.
Thank you,
night.
Sheila. Thanks, everybody. It was fun.
You're welcome.
Bye.
for joining
Thanks,
us.
everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
thank you.
Bye.
Aloha.